Hi, good afternoon, everybody. First, I would like to welcome all my guests, my panelists here to this particular webinar, and also all the people that are joining us from different parts of India. Sagar, thank you, Sagar, for Sagar has just joined in.
Hi guys.
Hi, Sagar. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to contextualize our session here. So that's 5 minutes. Every speaker then on, when I call them, you get to speak another 5 minutes each. After that, we have a question answer session, which they have some questions that have just come up. And people also can basically, send us their questions. There will be participants who will be sending us their questions throughout, and we will take them as we get them. Okay, fair enough. So just let me share what I have in terms of contextualizing this particular thing. So from my I don't think I can share this with you, but however, wait, let me see if I can. Let me just share. Just let me know, okay, if wait once. Can you all see the desktop? Desktop, yes? Yes, okay. So what we're going to discuss is basically the changing consumer behavior around the world post COVID-19 and how it has impacted basically things from around retail, travel industry, hospitality, entertainment, sports, etc. And also trying to kind of like now figure out what the new psyche is in terms of the new hygiene after the new hygiene 2.0 protocols are released by all the governments on how you deal with human on a human level and how we deal with interaction with people, etc. So all those changes that we will address in terms of how the behavioral aspect changes in terms of businesses and what businesses need to look forward to. This is a recent Bloomberg survey, and basically it tells that the US retail sales fell from 16.4 in April and down. It's gone right down there. If you see at the minus levels, trying to create, I don't know, a new. This is post what is just generally happening right now after the the introduction of COVID, or rather the spread of the pandemic that's happened globally. And it's a total nosedive. You can see it has impacted everything in terms of retail. We have the workforce survey, and in that you can see the workforce is basically disrupted quite a lot. You've seen the agriculture industry, mining, quarrying, manufacturing. Some are in very dire straits. You can see accommodation and food services, which again related to hospitality, transport, etc. And you trade, though there are certain areas of trade that are marginally okay, there are significant others which actually have a lot of logistics and all involved that are very deeply affected in terms of casual labor or wage laborers or regular salary workers. And this is a survey done by Chronicle and Bloomberg Quint. Now, in terms of habit forming, where are we? We are trying to figure out where we stand in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Certainly with all of what we've come to understand about the disease, COVID-19 is basically we went and now we're basically addressing the base physiological needs like air, food, water, shelter. We were right up there probably at self-actualization and all of that before in January, December 2019. And suddenly over a period of time now we are at this particular phase where we are totally on a different level altogether. So how has the lockdown changed? Okay, how buying behavior, and so one major thing that it says is basically the people that are involved with like the older generation, etc. Their behavior towards buying, etc. has totally changed. So one of the things that we have learned is there's been a sharp adoption of digital technology for older people, and also them joining on to the e-commerce bandwagon and ordering items, grocery, etc. It had become mandatory in India, and so it is obvious. But this doesn't again qualify onto the tier 2, tier 3 kind of states. This is mostly an urban phenomenon still. And also in terms of purchasing vegetables and consumables, that earlier on we had that issue of negotiating. We wanted to negotiate with those small price differences, like, you know, ask for something free. Those things have all been out of the window. So whenever somebody says kothmeri or coriander, you have to pay 30 rupees extra, which used to just come as a add-on, you know, earlier on. Now that has all been brought to bear, and basically people are paying up for what they are buying. Even those small items, they don't negotiate, etc. So, and this is something that's totally a part of the survey, but there is a sentiment there which has a political connotation about different geographies, countries, etc. So this is also something that is there, that is prevalent within the India survey. And banks and all that have been promoting a lot of internet banking for the last decade, and they've been doing this digital India, digital this, digital that. Suddenly with COVID, everybody is forced to bank digitally and do most of the transactions digitally. So obviously there's a huge uptick in obviously users of digital services, and also businesses like Tata Sky Broadband and Jio, etc. are the beneficiaries of this. And other form in terms of entertainment has gone drastically from the open places where you would congregate for a movie or a show, concert, etc. And now it has moved on to OTT platforms like Netflix, etc. And a huge increase in that sector as well, into DTH, DTH and cable subscription as well. There is a downside to this. Obviously, we've seen a lot of migrants and all moving out. So there is an economic problem of out migration from the big metropolitan cities, and for states which already had out migration, which already had a economy that was on the tenterhooks. Now they have to welcome their migrant people back, and that is going to be another big challenge. So this is Paulo Coelho quote, but I'm just going to show you what work from home has become. Even for my kid there, he has to wear his dress and get in line and sit in front of his computer, you know, to do his classes, online classes. So that's what's happening. So the new normal looks like this. These are people that are brought back from Singapore to Mumbai on 10th of May. And this is these are how it looks scary. It looks like some freakish horror movie, but this is reality. This is the new normal. Tourism looks like something like this. This is at Bangkok's Erawan Shrine. Even those dancers at the shrine, they basically need to put on their face shields. Cops are not taking money in India. This is in Bhopal. They're not accepting challan in cash. What they take is, once they don't take it in their hand, as a precaution, they take to minimize contacting human beings, or rather the currency. They ask you to sanitize the currency and put it in the plastic there. So this is the other protocol that's gone above and beyond. Hence, let me just stop sharing this. Okay, there you go. So I would first like to invite Mr. Anand Sai. So this context is there. You kind of know what. So now understanding this new consumer, right? So I want your 5 minutes on this. Mr. Anand Sai is right now he's the CEO of Tata Sky Broadband and X. He has been in the field of FMCG. He's worked with obviously demonstrated leadership on the telecommunication field. He's worked with luxury and lifestyle retail brands from Vodafone, Monster Energy, Go Air, Time International, PepsiCo, Adidas, and more than 10 years as a CEO of large businesses, doing over $600 million in revenue. So Anand, you have the time with you. You can speak for 5 minutes, then we take it from there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Karma. Thank you for introducing me, and as well as laying out the groundwork for our agenda for our talk. This is the first time that I'm a panelist in a webinar. I've been very busy, so there will be some teething problems. If there are any, please bear with me. I think before we start, I just wanted to add that we must keep in mind that the very fact that we're sitting and discussing here, we are privileged and blessed. Compared to the majority of people on the streets, there is, we have choices, they have none. Some of them are hungry, and there are some videos being shared which are just, it shatters your heart. Really, it is like that. And I think somewhere the change has to also include individual behaviors and responsibilities. And I think mindfulness is the way, has to be the basis for going forward, right? So as the COVID-19 crisis continues, I think there are mixed emotions. We all believe that it's going to be much longer than what we thought when we got in. And we don't yet see the end of the tunnel. When exactly are we going to come out, and what is going to be the status when it comes out, when we come out of it? But, you know, the underlying feeling everywhere is one of anxiety. The flip side is latent anxiety, because you're not alone. Everybody is together. That's the one thing which is keeping most of us sane. And the fact is that what are we anxious about? We are anxious about our income. People have lost jobs. People have taken a salary cut. We are anxious about our health, not just COVID. I think at this point in time is probably the worst time in history to even fall ill for even a small thing. Even if you have a finger break or something, you're scared to go to the hospital. So you have to be extremely careful. You're scared about your family, your older parents, if you have any. You're scared about a lot of things. But the good thing is, it's latent. It is not pervasive. It is there. So what is really happening right now? Emotionally, if you look at it, we're all falling back on family. We are playing online Ludo. We are playing with our families. I was just telling the panelists before that we have a family get together. We have some old boys get together. We have all kinds of get together on video. I have cousins who have not spoken or met for 25 years. And today we are chatting up, and we're in a group or, you know, something like this in a Zoom call. So in times of trouble, you reach back to family, and that's what you're really doing, because that's where you get comfort. Okay. Now, other things, it's back to basics, because you're really focusing on groceries. Nobody's looking at buying fashionable stuff or shoes or something like that. The strange thing is, because of work from home and working on video conferences, one of the things somebody in e-commerce was telling me, the sales for tops continues, but nobody is buying bottoms because you're on the VC. Only the shirts are visible. So these are the, you know, minor things, but it will change because work from home is here to stay. Okay. Groceries, even a neighborhood grocer, while e-commerce has boomed, and it is booming, people like Swiggy and all have reinvented themselves because they're not delivering vegetables. To me, I was shocked, but last 3 days, my wife has been ordering vegetables from Swiggy, and they deliver fast. So while e-commerce is huge, I think the neighborhood grocer has also made a comeback because he delivers home, and at the cost of maybe a supermarket in the mall. Those are things that that are changing. And I think these changes will remain. Seeing comfort in familiar grounds, Ramayana has had highest highballs ever. This has come after 20 odd years. Remember when Ramayana was telecast years back, one channel, you didn't have a choice. Today you have thousands of choice with channels as well as OTT. And yet today, because it's familiar, people are going back to it and identifying with it, or, you know, seeking comfort from it. See, why I'm mentioning all this? Because emotions are going to determine our behavior in the next few months. As consumers continue to spend more time inside, I think there is a little bit of worriness which is sitting in, a little bit of fear, if I may say, is coming in. But if you look at what is happening, if you look at the top consumer trends, what is really happening is all about digital. Whether it is e-commerce, something, my mother stays with me. And in fact, I lost my father 3 months back. So since then, my mother's with me. She has, for medical things, I have a doctor for whom I do with whom I do a video conference, and he prescribes medicines, and then he sends me a WhatsApp prescription, which I go and get the medicines for her. I promise you, before COVID, no doctor would entertain a telemedicine session unless they, you know, you went through something. I think these things will stay. I'm in Bombay. My mother is coming from Delhi. She's not had to go and look for a fresh doctor in Bombay. She's still continuing to interact with the old doctor. So that is happening. Entertainment to infotainment. My son is in a boarding school. He came back 2 months before. So I will give you more of anecdotes into what is happening, and that will basically give you this thing. Online classes are here. He attends classes from 8:30 to 1:30 every day. And unfortunately, he was sent to a boarding school for physical games and all that, but that is not happening. And he is really freaking out on video games. Okay. Something I didn't want him to really focus on, but hey, you can't have everything.
Yeah. I hope
So other thing that is happening is work from home policies. If you look at it, we are working. I have never worked as hard as I do now. You have VCs, which actually is far more taxing. You can't zone out. You have to be there. And even if you want to, you don't miss a sentence. And this is really funny. I don't know why it happens. But, you know, we've had VCs in the past where half the people would be in the room and other half would be remotely connected. What I feel, if everybody is remotely connected, the productivity of the meeting goes up. The side chats come to an, there's no side chat happening, right? So these are the things which is really changed. I remember I did the whole company's appraisal, all the employees, sometime back. It took me 2 days to do the thing. This time we had one session of 4 hours, but I can tell you, we were completely bombed by the end of it. We were tired because it does take a lot out of you. Workplace, I can go on talking about what are the changes. I think I'll wait for another in the middle of the conversation to tell you about the changes that we made and some changes which I know is there for good. It's never going to change back. I think you're also, because of work from home, there's some business opportunities coming up. I saw somebody who's offering modules of work from home in terms of a desk, chair, laptop or whatever, depending on the size that you want and all that. And this guy is he's saying this square feet, this is the price, this square feet, this is the price, and this is what it is. So people have not even, they've already come online. So there are people, enterprising people who find and wait for opportunities and come there. Okay. Then I think we are moving a little more towards, have I completed my time?
Yeah, you have completed your time, but you can make that point. Then I'll come back to you on the second round.
No. Okay. I think I'll wait. I'll wait.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So very, very good. Very interesting. I hope your son takes up golf like you, and he probably will give you, you should give him an handicap. So next is, I would want to invite Dr. Deborah Elms to basically, based on the context, to kind of give her view about the new consumer. Dr. Elms is basically the executive director of Asian Trade Center, of which I am a member. This is based in Singapore. The Asian Trade Center works with governments and businesses to create better trade policies in Asia. She is the vice chair of the Asian Business Trade Association, which is another association like the Asian Trade Center, and she is also on the advisory committee of the Global Trade Professionals Alliance, including co-chair of the Trade Policy Committee. She's a senior fellow in the Singapore Ministry of Trade and Industries, Trade Academy. And previously she was head of the Temasek Foundation, Center for Trade and Negotiations, and a senior fellow international policy economy at S. Ramanathan School of International Studies at Nanyang Technology University, Singapore. She received her PhD in political science from the University of Washington and MA in International Relationships from the University of Southern California, and a bachelor's degree from Boston University. So, Doctor, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be on this call and talking about a slightly different topic. So this is actually my third webinar in 24 hours. The first one was actually on shifting supply chains. So that's sort of one topic. We do a lot of work on shifting supply chains. The second one that I did this afternoon, my time, was actually on a feminist trade policy. So it was a European Union thing about how do we engage more women in the workforce in terms of trade, especially get more female-owned small businesses active in trade, et cetera. And then now suddenly consumer behavior. So one change for many consumers is that your job description is completely different from what it was. I mean, I always had to juggle lots of different things, but now in the COVID crisis and everybody working from home, what you do, when you do it, you're online at weird hours trying to be attached to or listening to or whatever webinars. So that's changed. And I think that sense of disruption and dislocation in your personal life and in your professional life is common no matter where you are or who you are, really. That whatever you were doing with yourself in January is not at all what you're doing with yourself in May, and you have no idea what you will be doing in September. So I think as you mentioned, the sort of sense of concern, anxiety, fear, loss, grief, etc., mixed with moments of great sort of, happiness, serenity, contemplation, connecting with family and friends and so forth, I think is here to stay, at least for the foreseeable future. One of the things that I will talk about briefly, I think, is the challenges that we see for a lot of the small businesses, because we run this trade association. We had, heading into COVID, several thousand SMEs, including a couple thousand in India, who were active in everything. I mean, everything from travel and tourism to handicrafts to garment and textile manufacturing to services delivery of all kinds, restaurant software, reservation software, guiding other small businesses. So we have one company, for example, that helps onboard small businesses onto platforms like a Flipkart or a Amazon. So lots of different kinds of things. And almost all of them are either in real struggles, or even many of them we think are out of business already, because the longer this drags on, the harder it is for small businesses to maintain cash flow and so forth. Since many of those small businesses are trying to pivot, they are also eagerly trying to figure out what can they offer with the limited resources they have to this new batch of consumers. And their consumers could be individuals in their house, or they could be other small businesses. For an SME, in some ways, a consumer doesn't really matter whether you're an individual or whether you're another small business. That counts as a consumer for you. So these small businesses are struggling because they're trying to figure out what are the trends that matter and how can they offer services that make sense for this future. And I think that's been an interesting thing to watch, is the struggle of SMEs to sort this out. And many, as we just listened to, are very smart and very sensible and very savvy, which you have to be in order to be successful at all in a small business. You have to be able to pivot. You have to be able to locate an opportunity and then seize that opportunity. And hats off to the fellow who's offering home desks and home equipment. If we're going to be based from home for the foreseeable future, there are a lot of consumer trends you can imagine that come from that. And I'll just mention a couple, and then I'll pass it over to my colleagues. So if you're going to be working from home, obviously it depends on your own economic circumstances and so forth. And I am not speaking about someone who is crowded in very small quarters with an entire large extended family and no ability to work from home. That's a different sort of category. But if you think about people who are on this call, if you're going to be working from home for some extended period of time, what do you need? You need a desk. You need a decent desk with a decent chair, a decent lighting. You need internet service that's reliable. You need internet devices, and not just your phone, but something else that you can work on in the long run. You need, potentially, if you're going to be in your office for long periods of time, you need storage for things, printers. Like, who's got printers at home anymore? Nobody. So you're going to need to get printers. You're going to need to think about what are the insurance products that we're going to get in order to insure all of this new work from home equipment. You're going to be thinking about other things that seem suddenly very relevant for people who are trapped at home. So, if your couch or your chair is uncomfortable, then maybe you're going to get a new one because you're going to be in it a lot. If you are cooking more than you've ever cooked before, which is likely to be the case, then you need different kinds of, even simple things that you may not have had before. You may need more storage, food storage, for example, of some sort. You're going to need to have storage for things you never had to have before, like disinfectant. No one ever had the little squirt bottle of disinfectant and wipes sitting right next to your front door, but you're now going to need a place to put that. So there's a whole bunch of changes in consumer behavior, many of which will be lasting, that will have implications for companies who can deliver things like a cute little holder for the disinfectant squirt thingy, or a more comfortable chair for your office, or can deliver rentals of things like rentals of printers, for example, for home office setting. So I think there's going to be a number of consumer changes, even in the way that you live in a house and work from home, that are important to think through. And hopefully some of our small businesses can pivot and find new opportunities in this space, because the disruption for them is fairly significant. And trying to cope with that is causing stress and anxiety for a lot of our small businesses that are still in business. So let me stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Enns. All very poignant points in terms of, from the small and to the large, the fixed moving parts in terms of the entire economy to even, I think that the point that she made on basically ensuring the furniture and the small desks and chairs that are for the work from home purpose is also an interesting thing. And on that note, I would like to call our insurance personality, Mr. Jerry Bhutia. So Jerry Bhutia is the co-founder of PolicyBazaar.com. He is also the director of sales at PolicyBazaar, and he's been there at PolicyBazaar for the last 12 years. He's an alumni of Tashnamil Academy, Sikkim, and is passed out from Delhi University. PolicyBazaar is one of the online insurance product aggregators, and it is probably the only unicorn in that particular space. So Jerry, you have 5 minutes, after which we will go and talk about Momo. Thank you.
Thank you, Karma, for the introduction. Thank you for having me on this panel, and thank you all the panelists. So basically, just to start off with about this COVID, like Anand was mentioning, right? First of all, yes, we need to be, we are privileged and we should be thankful that we are here. I seriously feel that, because there are a lot of other people who are going through tough times. And at the same time, right, very well mentioned by Anand also, that there are a lot of anxiety. It's absolutely true. When it initially started and when the first announcement was made by our Prime Minister in India about the lockdown, I don't think we in our era has ever seen that. We didn't know what was happening. There was a lot of anxiety. I mean, I have my family, I have my kids, right? I have my wife. We didn't know how are we going to do things? There was there were hardly any clarity, but though they said that things, essential goods and all will remain open, but there was no clarity. So that was there, right? And I'm glad you touched on that, because that's very important and everyone must be feeling that. But at the same time, and absolutely bang on, one thing I did realize was we are not alone in this. It is not for me or it's not for you, it's for everybody. And we all need to move together to fight this, right? And at the same time, we do need to take advantage of this situation. Look, everything has pros and cons. We do need to take advantage of the situation. And I'm going to talk a bit more on that piece also. And advantage, just from a personal point of view, advantage in the situation, like even spending time with our family, which we might be taking things for granted, the way we work and, the way we are. Suddenly you have a lot of time and, and we might take advantage to do things which we have never done before. Obviously, keeping social distance in mind, right, within the vicinity of your home, right, there are a lot of things that you can do. Take up painting, do house chores, learn how to clean your house, do jaru pocha, right, simple things like that. So, like, for example, now the pro and con, when I look at it, right, COVID, it's a pandemic which we never faced. I mean, I don't think in our era, the only thing that a COVID-like situation that arose, if I'm not wrong, was somewhere in the 1800s. It's called 1918, called the Spanish flu, right, where millions and millions of people died. Now, when you look at that, people do fear, saying, "Oh, are we going to be in that situation?" I don't think so. Why? Because we have stepped a lot ahead in our medicine, in our technology, and all. So I think that kind of fear should not be there. Now, there are certain sectors which took a beating, and bad one. Sectors like manufacturing, auto, like in auto, like on an average, if I just have to throw some numbers, in an average in India, about anything between 2.8 to 3.5 lakh vehicles manufactured. Can you imagine? The number was 0 in the month of April, May. So that's a massive impact. 0, right? Aviation, you know what happened. It slowly started dipping and boom. Now there's hardly, like, for example, if I have to give my own this thing. So Policy Bazaar, we do travel insurance. In a day, we used to do almost about 3,000 travel insurance, which means people traveling on any given heydays. Now we are less than 7 transactions in a day. Now from 3,000 to 7, and these 7s are one who are not traveling right now, but trying to secure their future travel. So that was a massive drop for us. This thing, aviation, if I can relate that to the aviation sector. Coming to the hospitality, we all know restaurants, right? Entertainment industry, malls, everything is shut. Now these were they were the big. I feel that they were the one who took a big beating because of COVID. Now on the other side, if you look at it, there were upticks. Because of this, they were basically for the, let's say, for example, online grocery stores. They had an uptake. Online pharmaceuticals, right? Now, please listen to the words that I'm using. Online grocery stores, online pharmaceuticals, online recharge and utility payments. Because of the social distancing, because of this lockdown, people are not taking any risk, right? And then comes where I come into play, the online insurance piece. Now please understand why I'm saying the word online, because insurance is also sold offline. In India, we have anything between 2.2 to 2.5 million offline agents selling insurance. They make the living from there. Right now, that has literally gone to almost negligible, maybe like a single digit. It's like, now, just to quote you, there was this gentleman who I was speaking to. He used to say, "I make a living," and he said in a month, he said, "I can coolly make anywhere about a commission in a month." He said, "I can coolly make this thing. I can sell anything between about 30 to 35 policies." Now he's saying it's very difficult for me to even sell one, because, like you all know, an insurance in India being mostly sold offline through agent by physical contact, which people are avoiding. Like entertainment, movie industries and all, gone, cut, but slowly come back, but it's gone. Now what is happening? The online streaming platform is taking an upturn, right? Everyone has now or installing or has access to Netflix, Hotstar, all the Amazon Prime and all. So this is what is happening. Because of COVID, the fear of contact is driving away the fear of contactless purchase. People in India, especially, I know the Western countries and the Far East developed countries, it's a different story for them because everything is online. But India was catching up, and for us, right, people were still apprehensive about this purchasing and doing things online. We were going and we were improving. I mean, we were developing and slowly. But now what I've seen is it has seen a huge uptake. For example, in my own business, if you look at it online, in my company, in online insurance, when we were fearing that it's going to drop, what we saw a growth of about 35 to 40% on online purchase of insurance. Now that was the uptake. What was the downtake of this? The ticket size shrunk a bit. Why? Because people were being conservative, right? Because most of them might not have, or trying to conserve the little resource that they have because of the uncertainty, like jobs and everything. So that was there, right? But the main thing is the fear of contact is driving away the fear of contactless purchase. Now, if you look at it, lot of people, and I feel, right, digital adaptation will see a hockey curve. That's what I feel now, because a lot of people are going to go into self-learning, online buying, comparison, right, discount hunting. People will learn. Now, for example, and I'll give you and then there's one more thing. COVID is very dangerous for an age, right? A certain age limit, where they say, people above 45, 50 should be especially 60 and above, they should be very careful about this and all. Now, what has that done? My father has started to recharge his Tata Sky online, which he has never done. He used to go to a shop and he used to go out there in town and he used to go and pay 500 rupees and charge it for a month and all. He started doing that online. Right. See, that is where I'm saying people are going to go into that self-learning. And what is online? Actually, whenever you learn something, it's hit and trial. You keep learning as and when you move ahead. And so even if you look at it, right, the higher age group, which was earlier shying away from online buying, is now starting to go there. Now we were even talking about urban sector, right? Yes, urban sector. What about the rural sector? They will also move there. because tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, these cities will also come up. They will also. And what you will also see is you will see a huge gap in the ticket size where, and per person, you will see transaction happening even for a lakh, as well as a transaction happening even for 10 rupees. This is what is going to happen because people will avoid. And I don't think that, and I think this is there to stay. This is there to stay because if you understand, online, though people shy away, online is a very easy way. People might not have, it's like tasting blood for a man-eater, or sorry, for a carnivorous animal. Once you taste blood, and once you find the ease of doing business online, people will stick to it. The convenience, the time saving, everything. And obviously then people will start, there will be a lot of other corporates who will start, online corporates who will start giving discounts and all those. So that will be there. The other thing that I would like to this thing about is, Dr. Deborah did talk about, once you're home, people will start thinking about what are the stuff that you need to work from home. Now, all this, whether you buy printer, like Dr. Deborah mentioned, right, or other appliances, one of the most important things that will happen is with considering the uncertainty, considering the job risk, considering the cut down, people are going to go for more EMIs. So everything that you buy, right, people are going to be conservative. They are going to go for EMI where they can pay in installment. So that is going to happen going forward. So that is what I have right now on the situation that is going to happen. Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. Excellent points that you've made, and good insights. Not empirical. It's basically backed with data. I like that. It's telling us about what the trajectory of sales also looks like, how the future of, and I like the EMIzation of any product. Capital goods generally are going to go in an EMIzation kind of mode, which is kind of interesting because then it helps them at least pace out the burden of deploying capital immediately to a longer period. And I think there is a upside for the banks and the financial institutions also to kind of get into every other type of product, including small furnitures also that are being used. So this is very interesting. Thank you for that. And on that note, I would like to call upon Sri Sagar Daryani. So Sagar is basically the co-founder of Wow Momos, and he's done his schooling from St. James School, Kolkata, graduated from St. Xavier's, Kolkata. And probably he's the only guy who's going to sell momos to the Northeast. And he'll be very successful at that too, in this kind of format. So he started out with 46 outlets, 5 cities, and currently he's in about 200, Wow Momos is at around 200 outlets, 13 cities, with a valuation of about 450 crores. He's been conferred a lot of awards. In 2014, he has been conferred with the 50 most talented retail professionals in India. And Sagar, I want you to tell us what is happening with the Momo, with the retail business, and give us a glimpse of kind of the psyche and also a hope,
So I'll tell you what, I completely agree with what Jerry said, hashtag social distancing, hashtag contactless is the new now. I'm in Calcutta today and we have all been hit by this cyclone Amphan. But this cyclone is temporary, it's going to be here for a day or two and go away. But effects of coronavirus, effects of lockdown is not an aberration, it's here to stay. It's here to have a paradigm shift in all our lives. So yeah, I'll talk about our industry. So, we currently have 345 outlets across 16 cities. And out of them, only 80 outlets are open for delivery. All the outlets in malls are shut. All the outlets in tech parks are shut. All the outlets across various food courts are shut. So it's tough times, Corona times, and our industry, the hospitality, travel, tourism, the restaurant industry has been one of the most affected industries, because our industry is one of the biggest entertainment industries in India after Bollywood. We bring in emotions together. We bring in people together. People come over to restaurants and have to have a good time, to bond over memories and to get together. I think with social distancing coming in, we are going to be one of the worst affected. Our industry is known about health, hygiene, happiness. health and hygiene was always a part of our industry even before the COVID came in. But as restaurateurs, are we happy right now? The answer is no. It's you will see many of your favorite restaurants not opening up again. You will see a lot of bloodbath happening out there. Many of the food businesses whom I know, some of the top brands in Delhi, in Bombay, some of the top restaurants have asked their employees to go and leave without pay. Our sector creates one of the largest job creators. We contribute to 10 to 12% of the GDP. I was very surprised that even the Prime Minister relief package had not even 1% of touch to the travel, tourism, and the hospitality industry, which was very, very saddening. When you are giving a package of 20 lakh crores, you expect something that contributes to 10% of the GDP to be catered to, but nothing sadly has happened, and we can only hope that something will happen. Umeed mein duniya kayam hai, so we are just hoping. But to be very honest, going forward, I'll tell you how consumer habits are going to change. When I talk about our industry and I talk about normal consumer habits. So when the lockdown started, we continued some of our stores on delivery, and the delivery business was sticking up. Suddenly you hear of one case of one Delhi in Delhi, one pizza delivery guy getting the virus. And the fear psychosis, comes in the minds of people, and then the delivery business comes down. So I think this fear psychosis amongst people of going contactless or social distancing is going to have a very major and diverse impact on our business. Going forward, you will see a lot of surveillance happening around health. You will see a lot of social distancing happening in restaurants. A 80 cover restaurant will become a 40 cover restaurant. You will see a lot of social distancing happening in the kitchen. A kitchen crew of 15 people will come down to a kitchen crew of 7 people. The menu will become more limited. It'll be more of a compact menu. Before, when the terror strike happened in Bombay, before, outside every mall, outside every restaurant, you would see people standing with a metal detector. Now you will see people standing with the red infrared thermometer, checking your temperature before you enter the restaurant. So a lot of surveillance is going to happen around health and hygiene. A lot of people talk about delivery, online delivery to be the new now, but I personally believe that in the food business, it's going to be a bit different. It's going to be more about transparency. It's going to be more about clarity. It's going to be more about being open. Openness is going to be more of the way going forward. You will see a lot of live kitchens coming up. You will see a lot of people doing live streaming of the kitchen to show their hygiene levels. But more importantly, more than delivery replacing dine-in, you will see a lot of pre-order takeaway happening. So a lot of consumers will pre-order and take away and go to the restaurant and collect the food themselves and check out the hygiene measures themselves. They will not even trust the delivery guy to come and deliver to the doorstep because they want to go contactless. They will trust in their own hands, in their own physical being in going and doing it. So I think phygital will be the way forward for this industry, but a lot of bloodbath definitely happening and there to come. Honestly, if you ask me, I am someone who's very outspoken. I personally believe that this lockdown was a very good initiative to curb the virus. I think it was quite timely done. However, the economy cannot be in lockdown forever. I think 2.5 million people are your daily wage earners. These are the guys who are your dishwashers. These are the guys who are your stewards. These are the guys who are serving in retail outlets, right? You cannot risk the livelihood of 2.5 million people for a few lakhs of people who might get affected by this virus. So therefore, I think the youth of the country have to come and run the economy. I think the vulnerable, the elderly people have to stay at home and ensure that they take safety. Those who have, senior citizens at home, they have to take precautions. But I guess the youth of the country has to come out and get the economy rolling and running because, no matter how much we might say that it's only going to be online and shift towards online, a lot of it cannot happen just online. It has to be phygital. It has to be a hybrid model of online and offline both. And trust you me, all these Uber drivers, all these auto rickshaws. So I'm a part of the NRAI, which is the National Restaurant Association of India. I head the East India chapter. I am part of the managing committee. We have served 70 lakh meals to people across 7 cities. In Calcutta alone, we have served more than 10 lakh meals. And when we serve these meals to people who live in slum areas, they are only getting 1 meal to eat in a day. So imagine their condition. If we stop serving these meals, they will not even get food to eat. So the condition at the ground level is really bad. The ground reality is not, we are actually, like Anand sir said, we are actually very lucky to be at homes, being able to do this webinar, being in the comfort of our homes. But the ground reality is really sad. It's really bad. And I think we need to get the economy out of the lockdown. There has to be a hybrid model, and this has to happen sooner than later. Otherwise, you'll see a lot of jobs going out of the way. You'll see a lot of bloodbath happening out there. And you never know, this might just lead to a civil war. I am seeing so many of people in my company, in my organization, so many of my acquaintances and friends who have actually had a lot of online fraud that's happened in the last 1 or 2 months. So that's become the new that's become the new kind of theft that is happening. People, money is coming out from people's Paytm accounts, money is coming out from people's bank accounts. A lot of online fraud is happening. So that's the new way of people, being able to generate black marketing. And I personally believe that we need to come forward. We need to get the economy rolling. And I'll be very upfront about it, that if you ask me about the financial package given by the finance minister or the prime minister, I think our sector was very, very badly affected, and we are very, very disappointed.
Thank you, Sagar. So, yeah, basically you asked the question and you answered it yourself, which is, yeah. But the point that you made is we had a meeting on livelihood of the mountain states, 2 different webinars on this, and we had one on the future of tourism and travel trade also. And it's really a bloodbath, and obviously there are a lot of people affected. And also more in the entertainment industry also, and because there's no entertainment industry. The only entertainment is Netflix currently.
OTT.
So yeah, pardon, or
OTT.
Yeah. Yes, I have to start remembering to say OTT rather than spell out a brand. So on that note, I would like to call upon Mr. Sonam Bhutia. So Sonam Bhutia basically leads the Southeast Asia region for Alipay, the Alibaba Group. He is an expert in financial technology and payments. In his current role, he is responsible for driving growth in new markets for Ant Financial and Alipay, which is all part of the Alibaba Group, through strategic payment networks and marketing partnerships, and helping evangelize the Alibaba ecosystem. In his current role and in his role in this industry for quite a number of years, he has a front row seat at the convergence taking place in the payment, fintech, e-commerce, retail, insurtech, and digital identity. He has completed his MBA from Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. He was born in Sikkim, but now is a resident of Singapore, and he lives there with his family. So Sonam, I would give you 5 minutes. You can please start your session.
Hi guys, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are. Really, I mean, it's been a very interesting, I would say, insights into a lot of information. Sorry about that. There's a lot of background noise on my end. It's interesting insights from varied names from panelists. I think from my side, I think a couple of things I would like to focus in my sharing session is, I think it's back to the basics if you look at it, right? I mean, being a Singapore resident, I mean, if you look at the way the whole COVID-19 panned out and the way lockdown was announced in Singapore, the DOSCON orange, the panic buying and so on and so forth, I think there's a very clear pattern that has been established, not just in Singapore, I think across the world. First, it was the panic buying. First, then it was, the face mask. Then it was followed by toilet papers, bags of rice, and, so on and so forth, right? I just wanted to share a few anecdotes from around the world, including Singapore, as well as, I mean, a lot of resurgence in the market that we're seeing in China, which of course is where my headquarters is based. So within Alibaba Group and within Alipay and Ant Financial, essentially, we run a lot of platforms. We run Alibaba.com, we run Taobao, AliExpress, perhaps one of the world's biggest platforms, really the buying and the selling side of things. And the COVID-19 was a very, I would say, funny situation wherein both the buyer and the sellers are affected at the same time, unlike, say, the 2008 financial crisis or, even the world wars to a large extent. So the type of trends that we're seeing right now in the market is really driven to the fact of who are the ones that are really adopting digital. And it's really a give and take between, I would say, economy and health. And again, coming back to the last one, economy and health, I think some of the previous panelists clearly mentioned that in India, especially, I think the youths need to step up and really forego, perhaps even if there's a little bit of latent risk involved in restarting the economy. So I agree to that a large extent, in a sense that it's only to a large extent, I think you can keep hunger away from your belly. I think after some point, you need to start working. You need to start figuring out how you're going to solve a major issue like bringing money at the end of the month back to your family. And I think that is what, even within our business, within Alibaba and Alipay, we are just trying to solve. Today, we see things that were a sort of very unique to a certain territory like, say, China, where a lot of people sold stuff through live streaming, for example. And perhaps it was frowned upon, perhaps it was not seen as lucrative as before. But right now, even in markets like Singapore, if you look at, I'm sure many of you guys have heard of Tekka online market, which sells a lot of things like wet market, which sells a lot of chicken and vegetables. They have gone online, you know. So the trend that we're noticing is adoption of technology to really help, you know, balance out economy versus health, right? So a lot of business and initiatives that consumer behavior changes within that to balance it out have been really driven by from technology point of view. And businesses that have gone online, that accept online payments, and I think they're doing really well, but it's not so easy for businesses to pivot overnight. And I think one of the panelists mentioned that if you're a offline business and then you want to do online business, I think it was Jerry, you want to do online, if you want to go offline, it's not so easy to pivot back and forth. But I think it's those businesses that want to experiment a little bit at this point in time, they can start seeing some of these changes right now. I think a lot of businesses in Indonesia, for example, some of the markets that we are really, really close with, in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in Philippines, for example, are badly affected by this. But I think we see a small sliver of hope where you see businesses that have been able to adopt technology, have been able to adopt a little bit of the online payments, for example, as simple as that, live streaming, have been able to fight the whole COVID challenges slightly a little bit better. And I think the whole discussion around we being very fortunate to be even part of the panel to talk about it, I think that's, again, rightly put in the sense that it contextualizes what we're really doing. I mean, there are a lot of people at the bottom of the pyramid. I don't think when C.K. Prahlad defined the bottom of the pyramid, I don't think he ever thought of a situation like this. But I think the whole concept of bottom pyramid and how people who are not us in this panel, perhaps, how do you define how they've been affected by COVID-19? This, I think, is another complete research in itself. And I think this is something that economies around the world, businesses around the world, as well as government around the world also need to take into consideration when it comes into understanding consumer behavior and so on and so forth. That's about it from my side.
Thank you, Sonam. Sweet and short and basically all to the point. Very good insight that Tazo, I saw how that live market works. So this is a very interesting concept. I think most of our viewers don't know about it, but these live streaming of wet markets, Sagar, it's very interesting. They are live streaming these wet markets and auctioning it. And so even you can sell fish, chicken, whatever, I mean, you know, meats or everything else. And it's like auctioning and live, and you just sell it directly and you stream that like on Twitch or something like that. It's very interesting. And they're doing it in collaboration with Facebook right now, right, Sonam? Is that correct? That's right. Happening, right? Yeah, okay. So this might also become some kind of trend, you know, going into the future, because there are a lot of people who actually sell through Insta and all, I've noticed. So if you can do a live auction, quickly live stream that, I think they'll have a lot of takers. But okay, now I've come to the session where we've kind of like got a bird's eye view of how people have thought through and how our panelists have thought through this particular problem of the new consumer. Now I would like a couple of questions that we have already that we've pulled and we've got before. So we'll go quickly through them. The first question is to Anand. And Anand, so if you're there, the world is definitely, I mean, you know, going through an economic depression in the short and medium term, like all our panelists, including Sagar, which he had articulated the point very well. Would it be right to say that there are huge contractions in spending and especially on luxury items, travel and non-essential consumption, you know, contraction in those three spaces? If so, for how long will it take for people to start spending again, I mean, you know, and on the so-called non-essential consumption? Or is this demand now has it become inelastic? You know, has it contracted so far that it has become unelastic? And what do you think it impacts the different sectors, including yours?
So let me just give the easy answer first. How long will it last? I have no clue. Okay, because I really don't have an answer, because I don't even know when we'll get out of this lockdown. and what is the new world going to be like. But in terms of what is going to happen, I think from a desire-based shopping, it'll move to need-based. Conserving cash will be critical. Those who've lost jobs, those who've got a salary cut, and those who are fine will still look at the environment around them and be cautious. Okay. So my personal view, it'll definitely be need-based. So your high street, your travel and tourism, and see, one will be need-based, second will be health and hygiene coming first. Then all these factors come in. So while digital play will happen because entertainment will be there and human requires it, but he'll shift it to home. That's one part. Your work from home is here to stay. Whether COVID, even if COVID gets over tomorrow, I promise you, a lot of us who are non-believers in work from home, I was a very staunch non-believer in work from home. Today, I'm a 100% convert. I think all things being equal, I will not work more than 3 days a week from office, because the productivity is so much more. You will get a lot of, you get a lot more work done. Plus, you save costs by not having fancy offices and large offices. And we are very clear that maybe 30 to 40% in the good days also will be coming to office. And what will happen is that from an hour-based job, you will get a quantum-based job in terms of what are you doing, how are you delivering. The managers will also have to move to a different level. My personal view, you'll probably get rid of a layer in between, and span of control of everybody will go up significantly. It is already happening with what I'm seeing in my company. Okay. So a lot of changes will happen, but really certain things, anybody goes to the internet and looks at whatever you are seeing. Travel is going to get hit. Tourism is going to get hit. Restaurants, there will be a blood path, as Sagar mentioned, but there will be a lot who will survive. Numbers may come down to 50%. It'll take a long time to build up. Anything moving at 60 km per hour, if you bring it to zero, it doesn't go back to 60 km. It takes some time to build up. And that's really what is going to happen. But there will always be opportunity. If you ask me, the unsung hero of this time is telecom, right? They have really been the atlas, the unknown atlas in this. The information that you're getting, the ability to stay in touch, doing web conferences to meet up with your family and working from home is all possible because of telecommunication. I think they are the ones which has made it so much different than what happened in 1920. 1920 at best, you had, nobody knew what was happening. It was only accumulation of information which told you 5 million people died. At that time, nobody knew. People were just dying. You didn't know what was happening. I think all that has changed significantly. And I don't think we'll be hit as badly as in the worst situation, because information is flowing. Goods will also move from one place to the other as and when it gets manufactured. If you have a vaccination, my personal view is vaccination will come in later, but initially, if there's a simple protocol on treatment, if that comes in, that'll save a lot of problems. But the fact of life is, today or tomorrow, we are going to get back to work. We are going to get back to market, and because you can't keep the economy down for so long. And you know what? It is going to hit us more.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent, Anandji. So just as a public PSA note, public service announcement to our panelists and all our viewers, Mr. Jerry Bhutia had to drop off because he has an official call, emergency call right now. So he had to just drop out of our conference, and he has gone. So the next question now is to Dr. Elms, and the question is around the kind of like the in-out migration. So around the world, we are seeing these migrants, that are returning back home from wherever they are working to their homes, and they are coming in droves, in millions. So this is going to impact labor availability adversely in the short term and also in the longer term, because till a reliable vaccine is not found, I don't think so. The dynamics on at least the labor market, or like the travel between different places for work, is going to be dramatically affected. How will this change the labor market dynamics in light of all the negative impact on growth and demand in sectors like trade, real estate, manufacturing, hospitality, and the travel industry? Doctor, I know you've taken some other notes, but if you address this and then you come back to your notes and add on to that, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
That's a tough question, and it's a great one. Obviously the labor market is shifting dramatically in every economy. So we have migrants returning home. We have a lot of workers who have been overseas, who are either stuck overseas or unable to return home, who may be losing their jobs. Remittances are falling. For many economies, this is a major problem. So if you're the Philippines, for example, and you lose a lot of remittance payments, that is a huge hit to your economy. Even if you domestically in the Philippines are doing fine, those remittances in the Philippines are a substantial part of the overall economy. So this is a major problem. In addition, of course, all the travel that goes around with moving people. I think we will see both migrants moving less. We will see the general population moving less. We'll see, of course, a lot less business travel. The other thing that I think is sort of interesting about, and this becomes very sensitive, so we have lots of movement of people that tends to be politically sensitive anyways. How does that movement of people, certain kinds of folks, virus, that all could potentially be a very toxic mix in some places, hopefully not. But you could imagine a world in which it becomes more difficult to move after this virus for different kinds of people, different nationalities, whatever it is. But I think movement of people is going to be restricted. We will also see a potentially an interesting scenario, which will help some folks in different markets, which is if we're all going to be online for some period of time, people are going to be working from home, why do I need you to be in my country? So you might have a real diversification of labor as you say, well, if we're going to be working from home, why am I spending a fortune on an employee in high-priced Singapore? And I have to pay for their salary and their kids' education, and they have to pay for expensive food. And so why am I doing that? I could hire someone who has similar skills somewhere else for a whole lot less and just meet them on Zoom like I'm going to be meeting my colleague in Singapore on Zoom. So I think there will be some interesting labor fallout from this that we may not have thought of. And that just leads me to one other comment that I want to just flag. Obviously I work on policy, so I care a lot about what governments do. If we have this great stampede to digital, fantastic, digital, e-commerce, etc., fabulous. But I would just flag for especially many of the companies that may be listening to this call that governments are using this moment to do a lot of things, especially in the digital space, that are very problematic. So people who are trying to get paid can be struggling with payment systems that don't always work. And I'm sure our Alipay person will discuss this in more detail. Payment systems don't work easily, efficiently, or cost effectively for either consumers or for businesses. We have taxes, new taxes coming in on digital services, especially overseas digital services. Those of you in India may not have noticed, but you just got hit with a 2% additional cost on all inbound digital services delivered by foreign companies into India. So all of the Netflix that you're watching, all of the other services that you're now consuming from overseas are 2% more expensive. And you say, well, 2% doesn't sound so bad, but if you're a cash-strapped consumer, that's a very big deal. And then someone has to pay for those taxes. They have to collect taxes and then remit them back. So there's a whole lot of digital policies that are making it harder rather than easier for consumers and for companies to move to an online setting. And I think that's something that we should be paying attention to, because if the goal, or if one of the solutions to getting us out of some of this is to move more online and make it more readily available and make it easier for people wherever they are to participate in the economy, then we make it impossible for them to do so, because you can't move certain kinds of data, you can't get someone's address, you can't get their credit card information if they have any, you can't do a bank transfer, whatever it is, it undermines the promise of digital.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And obviously, the one thing that was pretty sticky that you've not touched on is when all these digital services and everything that's happening, that governments are also now, because of COVID, there is obviously a global, worldwide mass surveillance economy that is already, not economy, but basically government-owned mass surveillance that's going on. And there's a lot of, there are advocates that are fighting on the periphery of basically privacy and digital rights as well. So having said that, now the next question is for our Sagar. So even with the magnified concern about hygiene, Sagar, this is for you. With the magnified concern about hygiene, personal safety, and social distancing, it is unlikely that demand for restaurant food will go away. But there will likely be a spike in takeaways, home deliveries, and significant lower restaurant traffic. The hardest hit would be street food vendors and pop-up stalls. With shifting behavior and a new normal setting, how can restaurants and vendors cope other than instituting safety measures? What are your comments on this? Okay, so this is probably, there is another factor to this also, but the other factor was we got an online question as well, is on the Wow Momo employee status. How many of them also have you managed to keep together? So that's the second part of the question. So the first part is on the whole economy, from the street vendor to everybody else. How can they cope, and what are the new protocols?
I'll answer the second question first. I'll give some light and numbers here. So pre-COVID, we were doing a revenue of 20 crores a month. In the month of April, we did a revenue of 2.5 crores, only delivery business. And so business came down to 1/10. In my 11 years of, since I began Wow Momo with rupees 30,000, 11 years, for the first time in 11 years, I saw losses of 7 crores in the month of April 2020. So the going out there definitely is tough. We have 2,700 employees. And the call that we have taken, as a leader, it's very important to be very transparent with your team. It's important to give security and clarity to your employees. The call that we have taken is that we have not done any job cuts. And we have assured our team that there will be no job cut for the next 6 months. We have resorted, for the month of March, we paid the entire salary because it happened in the middle of the month. None of us
Sagar, can you listen? I think there's something wrong with the network. Okay, so let me just bring in, so then the next question will be for, I think Sagar will just come in. Looks like his network is gone. So Sonam, now for you, the question is, over the last few years, right, India has slowly been moving towards digital India with the penetration of smartphones and the internet. The demonetization crisis of 2016 has also compelled people to embrace, the digital technology, especially, Jandan, Aadhaar, and mobile, which is called the Jam Trinity in India. Covid-19 has been a big push towards financial digitization in India and greater adoption of digital payments and technologies by otherwise technology averse generation, the older age, above like the people who are above 40, 50 years old. The focus is now on minimizing human touch for payments. Now even small vendors like milk vendor, vegetable vendors have begun accepting digital payments. In what ways will fintech change in India in the short to medium term as more consumers adopt to digital technologies? Sonam, this question is for you.
Sure. Too early to say how it's going to change, but let me just paint some scenarios that I've seen in the last couple of, I would say, weeks and months during the whole COVID-19 situation. I mean, with COVID-19, VCs have not stopped, obviously, not stopped putting money here and there, but I think it's more around the traction that I see from this side of the world is how do issues and problems that were already prevalent in the fintech space prior to COVID-19, how does it come like a bullet train to be solved even quicker than before? I think the problems on the consumer financing, for example, I think if somebody wanted to buy something online, whether you go to a shop to buy, I don't know, a fridge or a freezer, right? And for you to get for you to complete the transaction, typically it's not real time, or it doesn't happen as quickly as you should. Perhaps from credit checking point of view as well, there is a whole time span that is being spent. So the technology behind that, as well as the services that were usually driving that, for example, credit check and so on and so forth, prior to COVID-19 would take some time. And I think with COVID-19, the speed in which you need to fulfill the services, fulfill the demand for these has really gone ahead and been able to, quicken this, the request for these services. I'll be very honest with you, I'm not 100% very familiar from the India side of things, but from Southeast Asia, Malaysia, perhaps from the ASEAN region, as well as China, right? What I can generally share is that when you have a business that's driven by a non-credit business, non-credit line kind of business, for a non-credit card kind of business, the business are primarily driven by savings or are driven from primarily from, I would say, non-credit, more debit instruments. I think the access to credit for people in these markets were very difficult previously. And I think with more financial instruments coming in place to give access to credit or installment payments, as some of our panelists mentioned earlier, is helping drive some of these consumer behavior change, especially in the fintech sector. So wherein you have a holiday that you could previously pay for in one lump sum, I would say, amount, can now be also be paid using a credit line that's given to you based on how you perhaps paid your telecommunication bills over the last 12 months, or whether you picked up your parcel when Taobao delivers it to you, so on. So some of these are some of the technologies that are being used to drive even more consumption, whether it was COVID or post-COVID situation. And in post-COVID situation, it has even become much more useful. So when it comes to fintech and the type of businesses that are really going ahead and getting even like things like funding, or some of the services that have been enhanced are things like how do end consumers get access to better financing at a much quicker pace, as well as how do businesses leverage on new technologies or new services, including like I mentioned earlier, live streaming. How do you get them on board as quickly as possible? So services, as well fintech services, at least around that, are being driven more and more, finding more and more acceptance. But I think, as Sagar mentioned as well before, I think with more of these technologies coming on board, I think you also have to be very aware there are a lot of risk associated, especially from fraudulent transactions, especially from fraudsters who come on board and take advantage of perhaps the vulnerability of people who actually want those services, and so on and so forth.
Thank you. Thank you, Sonam. Sagar, now I think you had a power outage in Bengal, right? In Calcutta. So you were making the point. Please go ahead and make the point. Yeah? Yeah.
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Great. Go ahead.
I have very poor connection because of the cyclone here.
Yes.
I have got power cut.
Exactly. This is very interesting. You should tell everybody that you are in the midst of an Amban cyclone. Yeah, that's also very important. Sagar, are you there? Okay. Yeah. So he's in the midst of a cyclone. His area is in West Bengal is getting hammered right now by the cyclone Amban. So his network will be a little bit iffy. However, so to take this forward, then Anand. So then the next question to you would be, how do you think these brands will respond to price sensitivity of consumers post this lockdown? We may see can we see a new concept of like mass hypersensitivity in consumerism? Also, there is a lot of talk around hygiene 2.0. You have this social distancing, etc. Plus being able to consume anything with taking a lot of precautions before you buy stuff. Even after you buy, you have to clean them, and you have the entire COVID-19 is going to make us, to an extent, a little bit OCD in terms of hygiene and cleanliness, and in terms of like a germaphobe to that extent, right? And how do companies respond in this kind of situation? Because you have background in FMCG, on telecom, etc. How do you think brands, etc., will respond to this, and how should they? Best guess.
Look, my personal view, there will be a deflation. I personally believe a lot of the high brands will go down a bit because they've been going up at a very this thing, and a lot of companies will prefer to work on a thinner margin than shut down. Okay, and I'm talking about the high street brands and some of those brands. Perhaps I think all those prices will come down. Otherwise, the consumers, my personal belief, will be need-based. The desire can be kept in abeyance for some time. That's my personal belief. And the only way they can attract these guys back is the prices will go down. That's one part. Second part, that itself will not get the customers in, right? I think people are going to be worried of going into malls, are going to be worried into going to some of the places. So yes, you will have some stores doing well on the street, may not necessarily be doing well in the mall, because you are not going to go to these places. Mall, I'm saying there will be people, there will always people who will be there. You may even have a rush out there, especially when it opens up initially. People have been locked down for so long. But, over a longer period, a bit of sanity will come in of being a little careful. And as people will realize, I think one of the biggest exposed thing which has got exposed is that our capability of healthcare, not just India, but across the globe, we are just not there. And at this point in time, I think they will be focused on health as well. And that is why some of these brands will take a long time to come back. My personal view. They can do a lot of stuff. I don't think telecommunication has a problem at all. I think they will continue to be solid. They'll be solid. I think if you look at from a global perspective, what telecom stands to lose is roaming revenue, which is really the icing on the cake. It's a good, easy money. That will go away. So it will hit their bottom line. But the local operations will not suffer. It will only get solider. Okay. So that is one part. Now, when we look at other brands, it will be a bit of a challenge to lift up the volume to the levels it was. It is going to take some time. Some are agile, some are good, and some brands will definitely die down. Okay. That's the reality.
Okay. So on that note, I would like to bring Dr. Ems into the conversation. And Doctor, for you, the question is also around consumer behavior. I know you are more with the policy, etc., but this shift in buying and spending behavior for consumers, right? Because that is worrying probably everybody from small businesses to MSMEs, because MSMEs are the one which are most directly affected with a lot of contact-based, human contact-based businesses. The larger major companies like oil refineries, etc., they don't need to see human beings for. The most are either you are business to business or you are these large enterprises which need less human to human contact for their businesses to flourish, right? So, and especially because you've mentioned travel to tourism and the retail industry, how do you expect them to come out of this? Maybe on a nuanced, gradual level. How do you see this thing? Again coming back, if not at that earlier level, but at least to a level where these small businesses can survive, Doctor? And this is
well,
about
I think
engagement again.
it's going to be tricky, of course. I mean, one of the things that makes COVID so challenging is that you have both a supply and a demand shock at the same time, and it's global. Now, we've never seen that, and certainly not in most people's lifetimes, and maybe never. Have you had supply crashing? In other words, difficulty getting the materials, the inventory, the raw materials, the staff, the technicians, the whatever it is to make the product, the service, the good that you want, and demand crashing. So no one wants to buy the thing that you have, even if you have it available and you can manufacture it or you can develop it or whatever. In both places, down, and global. So you're not even able to sort of say, okay, well, I can't sell locally, but across the border is better, or in the country next door, or across this a bigger region, I'll be fine by finding some kind of new market or new consumer. And that is part of what is making this so challenging, is that it's supply, it's demand, and it's global. So even the largest companies are struggling with how they manage this for themselves, and then smaller companies, of course, in that as well. And there will be rebounds, and I mean, some companies are doing just fine. So some companies have managed, or they're even taking off, actually. I mean, we've never been busier. So, I mean, I suppose there's a silver lining in a pandemic. If you run a company that helps companies figure out what they should do next, you do better. So discretionary spending, I think, is way off. And areas, as you've mentioned, of course, restaurants is going to be difficult. It doesn't mean all restaurants are going to be doing poorly, but the volume overall is not going to look great. I think that's a bit of an issue. And then you have some sectors that are going to really struggle. So some of the travel and tourism companies may really struggle, not because, and in some cases they'll survive, right? So we'll have for example, a small hotel or a small, rent out space in your room or whatever. You might make it, but what will probably happen to you is a different category of consumer will come. So you used to attract, for example, I have no idea, let's imagine Chinese tourists, not coming now. So who am I going to get? I'm going to get local tourists from the next province over, which may have a very different portfolio may have a very different, spending pattern. They may spend all of their time in your room. They may never go outside. They may never come in. They may eat like crazy. They may not eat at all. I mean, so the things that you're offering are going to have to adjust. And I think the key here is that you're going to have to be flexible. Assuming that you survive the initial impact and the reopening starts, you're going to have to be flexible and figure out how can I adjust my product offering to match what I think is the demand in the market. And you may have to pivot very quickly, and you may have to just, and this is the tragedy for me dealing with small businesses especially, you may have to accept you don't have a market in the time frame that you have cash. So if there's a mismatch there, then you're just going to have to close your doors, and it's unfortunate.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Enns. So we got Sagar back. Sagar is, for all the viewers, listeners, just to know that Sagar is not intentionally doing this, but he is in the midst of a cyclone, and he's fading in and fading out from the connection to the webinar, and we've lost him again. So again, when he
I'm here.
Yeah, Sagar, yeah, I think you can use voice. Yeah, stop the video. Yeah, you continue with what you've got to say.
The network is very poor.
Yeah, just go ahead, make your point on that topic which you were.
So where was I? I was at the point. I'm really sorry. I mean, we have power cut here, and it's really bad. The cyclone. We have 2,700 employees, and we've not let go of any job. In the month of March, we paid the entire salary. However, for April, unanimously across organization, we decided to do a salary cut for the next 3 months of 30% each. I think the entire team is bearing the pain for the larger gain of everyone concerned. But we have taken a call that, we have a salary outflow of 4.5 crores, and come what may, we have been profitable for 11 years. So we have cash reserves, and we will take care of our employees. I think adverse time calls for being diverse. It calls for being resilient. It calls for, being strong and holding fort. I think this is one of the most critical times for us to, hold our ground, hold forth, and consolidate. I think if we consolidate, this is like a new opportunity for us. Like, this challenge can become into a new opportunity. I mean, if you come back to your first question, there will be so many roadside vendors whom people would be wary of eating, right? So people would not mind coming over to us and having hygienic momos. For us, the only competition in momos was the roadside vendors, because there was no other brand. If you talk about branded food, it was Domino's, KFC, Pizza Hut, my role model brands. But people will be more wary of not eating at roadside vendors and coming to brands like us, where they have a trust factor to go with the standard of the product, etc., etc. However, even the roadside vendors would become more conscious about hygiene levels, because they would also understand that people are more hygiene conscious. So you will see an upliftment of their services. You will see upliftment in their products. So I think there's a lot of good in what is also happening. I think this lockdown has given all of us the time to introspect, to look back at our mistakes, because we all have been running a rat race, right? We all have been all over the place. I think it has given us a pause where we can introspect and we can bounce back with a WOW 2.0. And I think that is what we are trying to do at WOW Momo. And honestly speaking, I personally feel, when we saw delivery business being really low, we started WOW Momo Essentials, where we started selling breads, eggs, potatoes, etc., sanitary pads, condoms. Now, WOW Momo Essentials was a new business idea. It was a new business arm for us. Now, if you look at it, we were agile as a startup, as a young organization. We were agile to go out there and do it. Because, if you order grocery from a big basket or a Grofers, it takes you 2 days to deliver. However, through Swiggy and Zomato, we were giving you real-time food delivery in 30 minutes, 45 minutes. So we decided, why not give real-time grocery delivery in 30 minutes to 45 minutes? And we got a tie-up done with Swiggy and Zomato, and now we have WOW Momo Essentials. So 50% of our current revenue is coming through WOW Momo Essentials. But, going forward, this can become a new business arm for us. So I think for startups, for young businesses, this is the time to be diverse. It is the time to reinvent your business model. It's the time to experiment. You might make mistakes from experimenting, but you have to learn from those mistakes quickly and bounce back. But, being agile and being existent. I mean, the reason that we kept the delivery business on is because we wanted to be visible on the app. We wanted to be, out of sight is out of mind. So you have to be a going concern. It also gives a very different kick to your entire team that the show goes on. So I think this is the need of the hour for businesses like us. And personally, I feel this is a golden opportunity for someone like us to actually, emphasize on what the Prime Minister said, like local going global. So local being vocal and local going global is going to be the mantra for us going forward. Like Anand sir said, conserving cash is going to be the biggest key going forward. I think businesses all are going to make losses. The ones that can make the least amount of losses, can conserve cash, are the ones that are going to hold fort and are going to champion this entire pandemic and come out more stronger.
Yeah, excellent, Sagar. That's
I'll just show you guys, if I can, the site here of
Cyclone.
It's real bad.
Okay, wow. Oh, okay. So Sagar has spoken like a true entrepreneur, and I like the way that you pivoted. The essentials is something that I guess will stand on its own legs. You will see that probably as long as this process gets entrenched further, looks like that is going to be some more mainstay in the longer term, and it's inspiring for people also, so that they have some level of engagement in terms of your employees to work for. I mean, where there's all negativity all around, at least there's this level of positivity that your diversification and the pivot has brought forth. And I'm very happy for that. Now, my final question, after which I will conduct a vote of thanks, goes to Sonam. Sonam, so as you are aware, I mean, you deal with fintech and payments, etc. One of the spaces that you've seen is how AI is creating this big impact, because now there is more scope and leverage for artificial intelligence also to make its way. And as it is also, the jobs and all are in the downturn. Probably you have now about 50 million people in the US who have applied for unemployment benefits. That's a huge, big impact. There were, the job market was not looking that great to begin with globally. Now we've got further with COVID. And and AI is also going to play a big role, because as long as social distancing and all these issues are there, then for technology to come and play a role might become much more easier. So maybe areas like manufacturing, insurance, and all of these things can also get impacted by AI to a large extent. So in your point of view, how do you look at this in terms of not only from a payment perspective, but from the larger other industries, on an ecosystem perspective, where it touches everybody's life in different trades and businesses? How does that impact flow through in terms of now businesses actually adopting artificial intelligence whole scale, making it less about people, because they kind of understand that this pandemic is going to flow in the human population for a longer period of time. Your take?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a very interesting point, because if you may recall, I think a few months ago, again, pre-COVID days, I think when there was a huge outcry in Europe, and I would say with the whole data privacy thing, and in our line of business, we were doing a lot of biometric payments, facial recognition, and so on and so forth. And in fact, I was also one of the few proponents of pushing those technology in Southeast Asia. It's very interesting that with the advent of COVID, whatever's happened, as well as the request and demand for new kind of services, like I said, speed of services, fraud reduction, I would say, again, a lot more breadth of services that is already there within the whole Alibaba ecosystem. I think what has really been forthcoming in our world is, how do I make certain decisions within a restricted amount of time and a restricted amount of data? And I think one of the key, I would say, product and services that has really come up with this whole thing is, in our world, we call, in the Alibaba world, it's called as, again, Huapay, right? It's essentially giving out a credit score to someone and then enabling him to make purchases and so on and so forth. But again, all of this is on a real-time basis, and leveraging on the network that we already have, as well as leveraging on technology that we already have, to bring, not just to enable someone to make a decision, but also to help perhaps a farmer who's got products and services that are perhaps has got an expiry time frame, and it needs to be sold to a certain province in another part of the world. Leveraging on blockchain, not just on AI, it's leveraging on blockchain. A lot of banks today in Southeast Asia have adopted blockchain technologies as well. Leveraging on artificial intelligence to make those kind of decisions, to really fast forward some of the decisions that were perhaps sitting or pending for the last, I would say, few months prior to COVID, is what's really delivering some of these messages home as we speak of today. As I was mentioning a little earlier, I think around the discussions around economy versus
Yeah, good. Good.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Please go ahead.
Right.
Please go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah. All right. So as I was mentioning a little bit earlier, I think this whole discussion around economy versus health, the whole discussion on economy versus health, when you want to figure out which sector of consumers I really want to help it, and what kind of help do you want to get, and what kind of efforts you want to put across to a very specific sector. I think these are the type of decisions that are really being driven by some of the data that's already there in place, as well as through a lot of the technology that already been put into place. That's it from my side.
Okay. So on that note, we are on time, basically maybe a minute or minute plus. I would like to thank Mr. Anand Sahai, Dr. Deborah Ems, Sonam Bhutia, Jerry Bhutia, and Mr. Sagar Daryani for joining us today on this panel with their insights and their valuable inputs about the new consumer. I hope the people listening to this webinar have benefited from this particular process and their insights and their valuable inputs. I would also like to thank our partners who have partnered with us. That we are live on Sikkim Chronicle. It's one of our the local leading online media company. So we are live there right now. You can see live on Facebook. Also with our partners AICT, which is a AIC SMUTBI, which is a business incubator based out of Sikkim, of the Manipal Group, Sikkim Institute of Manipal Technology, and DEMI, and I would also personally like to thank Namrata and Amrita for helping me do this, conduct this particular webinar. Thank you so much. If there are any questions, we'll take it further and we'll pass it on to our esteemed panelists, and they will help us answer this. And Sagar, stay safe. Jerry, who couldn't be with us finally. Thank you very much, and stay safe, stay home. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.